Welcome to this special edition of Daily World News. This is the Ajit Chak Kal Korff show, and we are going to discuss a few incidents which have been taking place of late in the United States of America. Now, it seems that on one occasion, the wrong version of a national anthem of a country was played by a US organization. On another occasion, Russian flags were handed out to supporters of Donald Trump, who gleefully waved them at his face till they didn't even bother to realize that they were waving Russian flags, because the Russian flag, unfortunately or fortunately, has the same color as the American flag. It's red, white, and blue, and they thought that they were waving American flags. Till finally the Russian flags had to be confiscated. Kal, since you're an American, I would like you to be very honest and give us a very clear position as to how these goof-ups take place in the world's only superpower. Please try and understand that nation has the doomsday bomb if they press the wrong button or they elect the wrong guy as president. There is no human race.
Yes. Well, let's take the first incident about tennis. What happened about a week ago was at a USTA match. The German national anthem was played because Germany was in the contest. Only the problem was it was the German national anthem from the Nazis under Adolf Hitler. My question as a journalist is, why would they even have a recording of this handy? And to make the mistake to grab the wrong one, or is it that the person did it deliberately? I honestly don't know. I'm reminded of the expression, you can't fix stupid, which to me explains the second event you're talking about, which is waving the Russian flag. I mean, I'll be honest with you, when I was going to school in the United States, back when the educational standards were higher than they are now, I loved geography. I loved seeing what the different colors were on the flags, could name the nation's capitals. I've been to 27 countries now. Most Americans will never leave the country, and I cannot relate to that mentality. Here we are, an immigrant nation with the arrogant attitude that you need to come to America. America will never be more than 5% of the world's population. That's just always going to be true. Most people, as you know, live in Asia, part of the world where India is. So the joke in America is, and I first heard this when I was in Europe, someone in Prague told me, you Americans learn geography by bombing. You realize where Iraq is once the news announces where you dropped your bombs. And I thought about that, and other than the ironic humor, there's some truth to that. Who had heard of Kabul, Afghanistan? The average American doesn't know. And as we've seen tragically, and you've talked about this before, somebody wears a turban, they're from India, they're Sikh, and they're immediately labeled by racists as being a Taliban, which is not the case. And then they harm or kill that person. So obviously the individual who handed out these flags to these gullible, I'm sorry, you just have to call them idiots, they took the flags, they started waving them. This is this flag waving mentality, which I can't relate to. And then they wave Russia's flag, because the myth is, and it is a myth, that the smear against Trump is that he's Putin's puppet. It's not that simple. On the other hand, Trump haters, they don't care about facts, and people who often support Trump on the alt-right, they don't care about facts either. So you have, again, a very polarized country, and right now the state of America is divided. It is the divided states of America. But let's be honest, if Hillary had won the election, it would still be divided, because the election was evenly split, more or less. Give or take 3 million votes, and take out the West Coast votes of California and the East Coast votes in New York, and Trump actually won the majority of the votes. So we have a polarized country. Trump says he wants to unite the country, but so far he's not doing that. And then of course you have now the Democrats doing the same tricks that they bashed the Republicans for. Remember how upset they were when Obama won? They became the party of no. They opposed everything Obama did, even when he was right. That's what they're doing now with Donald Trump. There's going to be another march, Ajit, by women for women's whatever rights, upset over what Trump said 12 years ago. Yet they won't march in front of the Saudi embassy and talk about where real abuses of women ago. I'm sorry, when you mistreat women the way that some of these countries do, Saudi Arabia being one of them, where they will kill you if you're a woman and you don't cover yourself, that is much worse of a crime than some lewd sexist remark that anybody made against a woman, however reprehensible that was. And look at the issue of female infanticide, where they kill the girl child, a problem that India has. That's much worse than talking about a woman's genitals. So these protesters have their reality skewed. And ironically, the organizer behind the first protest is a pro-Sharia law woman who is not for women's rights. These make these protesters, who don't even know their sponsor, useful idiots, just like the people who grabbed that Russian flag and started waving it, red, white, and blue, wrong country, they were useful idiots for people who hate Trump.
I think there's another issue here, basically, Kal. And the biggest issue here is that education for the last 20 years has been neglected in the United States.
Yes.
And for some reason, there has been a deliberate downgrading in the standard of education of children. At the same time, there has been a deliberate upgrading in the standard of education for managers, right? Which is why you have a lot of specialized courses like investment banking, for bank managers, your management degrees, your law degrees, or whatever, are of extremely high standard and professional standard. Science education, yes, high standard, but the divide between the O level, those below the O level and those above the O level, the class 12, is very vast. It's huge, in fact. Which is why what is happening is that I believe this is deliberate. This is being done to produce a race of, and I should use the word race, I should say a class of salespersons, mechanics, car washers, or executive maids, or whatever, sales girls, or receptionists, or hospitality industry people, or whatever,
marketeers,
or people who have a basic level of intelligence, a basic level of education, who just execute orders and do not think, because they have not been trained or educated to think, right?
Yeah.
Unlike the Indian system, where we are trying to constantly increase these standards, even for children going to school. So what you have produced as a result of this education is that you have extremely intelligent managers, extremely intelligent top brass, extremely intelligent elite. But the masses have very limited inputs going into their brains in the form of conventional formal education. And this has actually retarded the ability to think and analyze, which is extremely unfortunate.
It is. There's a couple things. One is education funding is not at the levels it should be. Teachers continue to be just underpaid. There's no excuse for that. And it's going to get worse now.
But of course, you
DVOS.
cannot compare the United States with Bihar, where you have toppers who are now in jail and who did not know that political science has got nothing to do with home science.
No, but now that DeVos is the Secretary for Education, this is a woman who has no background in education.
Oh, so you have your Ruby right there too.
Yeah, and she is for vouchers, and that program's going to start, meaning any school can teach anything, and she's against public schools, and she's against the bare minimum educational levels for public schools. So this is a very bad cabinet pick. We've reported on this in Daily World that this is one of the worst cabinet picks Trump has made. It's inexcusable. Can you imagine? It reminds me of, to use an analogy, you appoint somebody to run the CIA, not because they have a background in intelligence, but because they watch James Bond movies. It's that stupid. So if there was ever a symbol that is a living example of how not to do things and how stupid the educational level is dropping in America, has dropped, it is the appointment of DeVos as the education secretary, who has no background in education. But she did give $200 million to the Republican Party. Her husband is the owner of Amway, the big boss there, and she's got billions to spend. So she's very good at writing those checks. but she has no background in education. So yes, make her Secretary of Education. It is
It
absolutely
absolutely goes to
ridiculous.
show that education is one of the most neglected sectors in the United States today, and this
Yes.
is where you as a country need to pull up your socks. Otherwise, there's no way you're going to get rid of Indian techniques.
Well, yeah, but also independent of that, it's not going to get fixed, Ajit. It is not. I mean, I'm being honest. They're not going to fix it. The Republican Party is not going to fix it. The Democrats aren't going to fix it. My entire life, teachers worldwide remain underpaid. I saw it. I've been a teacher firsthand over the years, off and on. They're underpaid on all three continents, from what I can
So
see.
maybe they should now start educating people on what an American flag looks like.
That would be a good start. But, just the idea that, you wave the flag, whatever, I have issues with that. I mean, I love my country, but at least I know what the American flag looks like, and I know what the Russian flag looks like from different periods of history. These were useful idiots, just like the people were who protested for women's rights on behalf of an organizer who is anti-women's rights and pro-Sharia law and wants to see Israel wiped out. Go figure.
Thank you, Ken.
Thank you, Ajay.